Thomas Nagel puts forward the argument that there is a concept called sexual perversion that is not illogical or a categorical mistake. This is his argument. Thomas Nagel states that hunger and eating are importantly like sex in that they serve a biological function and also play a significant role in our inner lives. In other words, what he's saying is that you only need the basics to survive, such as food and water. When one desires more, this is comparable to sexual desires and sexual pleasures above the basic biological needs, which are components of sexual perversion. Another example that explains sexual perversion is, it is noteworthy that there is little temptation to describe as perverted an appetite for substances that are not nourishing. In other words, it simply means that when one desires things that are not necessarily nourishing or satisfying, it is not a perversion, but just a behavior out of the norm or an odd behavior. If a person likes the concept or idea of doing something rather than actually participating, this is a form of sexual perversion. As Nagel states, if one desires eating cookbooks or magazines with pictures of food in them, rather than eating the food itself, this is considered a perversion. The same idea of perversion is applicable to sexual perversion. In other words, when people engage in sexual perversion, it's as if to fulfill a desire in addition to what they already need to survive or function normally. Nagel states that there are 3 general conditions that must be met to be considered a sexual perversion. If there is actually a concept of sexual perversion, it must be made of desires or pleasures that are in some sexual way unnatural. Some sexual desires are perversions and some are not, while others are still up for debate. And there is an unnatural sexual inclination. If something meets these 3 general conditions, it is considered a sexual perversion, and this is Nagel's argument. Nagel defends his claim by saying that sexual perversion must reveal in conduct that expresses an unnatural sexual preference. The reproductive ability in humans is never taken into account, including any deviation from the reproductive function of sex to be considered a sexual perversion, such as abortion or contraception. The reproductive component of humans is a biological need, therefore it cannot be included in perversion. Throughout Nagel's writing, he presents a clear and strong argument. The strengths of his piece lie mainly within the first few pages of his piece, where he uses the physical and psychological aspects of hunger as a metaphor. This makes it easier to understand his argument. Sexual perversion is not a categorical mistake, as he explains, but it is built off of desire beyond the basic need. Nagel presents this continuously. His use of metaphor in his writing helps to solidify his argument of sexual perversion as a logical and viable concept. Overall, I do not think that there are any weaknesses, because with every claim there is evidence and data to back it up. It is not easy to argue with what Nagel places forward because of the way that he supports his claims. Once again, his argument that he places forward is that there is a concept called sexual perversion that is not illogical or a categorical mistake, but it is actually a category in itself.